In this comparative study, I will compare and contrast The Truman Show, directed by Peter Weir, and Jordan Peele's latest auteur work, Nope, to examine our topic question: how are postmodern film strategies utilized to critique the mainstream entertainment industry? These films are chosen because of their parallel uses of postmodernist storytelling techniques such as metafiction, intertextuality, and pastiche to explore a shared theme, the commodification of human lives in spectacle and media. I will also take into account their individual cultural contexts, as American films criticizing Hollywood 2 decades apart, as well as their similar uses of film language and genre bending. Postmodernism, of course, originated from modernism, a philosophical movement prominent throughout the late 19th to 20th centuries. According to Tate.org, though it experimented with form, technique, and processes, modernism still upheld an idealist and utopian vision of human life, society, and progress. Postmodernism came about around the latter half of the 20th century, post-World War II, where that experimentation evolved into rebellion. Often cited as a cynical reaction to modernism, filmmakers took to playing around with the generally accepted narrative structures, wanting to criticize long-held beliefs regarding objective reality, value systems, human nature, and social progress, often with an attitude of rejection or irony.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch?
One major technique attributed to postmodernism is the act of breaking the fourth wall, which can be taken to various extremes, from creators wink-wink nudging the viewer through meta-jokes to the actual character turning to the audience head-on. Both films I will be discussing, however, employ metafictional storytelling, landing somewhere in the middle. Literature professor Mark Curie defines metafiction as a kind of writing which places itself on the border between fiction and criticism, and which takes that border as its subject. Others think of metafiction as more of a modus operandi, a method, rather than a genre. Earliest examples of postmodernist film, Federico Fellini's 8½, is a film about a film director, and therefore an example of metafiction. Both The Truman Show and Nope employ this exact story element as movies about the movie industry. They criticize the very practices they participate in. The Truman Show follows one Truman Burbank as he lives his entire life inside of a TV set, where his every move is broadcast to the world without his knowledge, as the unconsenting protagonist of his own television show. When Truman begins to notice the gaps as a piece of the set, his reality literally breaks down. He starts his journey of rebellion against Christoph, the pretentious, money-hungry auteur director of this entire operation. Even as Christoph's efforts to keep Truman within Sea Haven grow cruel and extreme, the audience beyond the walls remain enraptured and complacent. Jordan Peele's Nope follows OJ and Emerald Haywood in their journey to go viral after they discover a UFO, eventually revealed to be a flesh-eating alien, hanging around their horse ranch. Their great-great-great-grandfather was exploited and remained uncredited as a huge part of film history as the black jockey riding the horse in the first ever motion picture. Having remained uncredited, when the alien comes along, the Haywoods decide to try to take advantage and get their Oprah shot, finally marking themselves in film history. Both films display the relationship between the exploited and the exploiter. The Truman Show is focused on Truman and Christoph, who is obsessed with keeping Truman in the fantasy for his own profit. The protagonist and antagonist are clearly defined. However, unlike in The Truman Show, where we root for the captured, in Nope we root for the capturer. Nope's main characters are taking part in exploitation in an effort to reclaim their past exploitations, making their actions far more morally ambiguous. A major side plot in Nope discusses the live family sitcom former child star Jupe starred in. Gordy's home, reminiscent of real 80s sitcoms like Full House, featured a chimpanzee who acted as the family's third child. In a flashback scene, Gordy is set off, mauls somebody, and is promptly shot, but not before showing a moment of recognition for young Jupe. In the present day, Jupe believes that he has a similar special connection with the alien, which he tries to exploit in his own show. He is promptly eaten along with his audience. Like the Haywoods and Truman, Jupe is a victim of exploitation. Both Jupe and Gordy were tokenized in Gordy's home, one as a token adopted child of color, and the other a wild animal with no business being on a TV set. In the end, Jupe ends up being just like Christoph. Through trying to manipulate his new subject, the subject delivers comeuppance, just as Christoph is eventually overcome by Truman. The Truman Show's mise-en-scène is colorful and nostalgic, yet its purpose is to exemplify false security. According to Weir, all of the light in Truman's world is artificial, yet realistic, just like how Truman would perceive it, a heightened reality or hyperreality, another aspect of postmodernism. Cinematographer Peter Bizio employs unusual camera angles and positions and frames foreground elements in a stronger way, evoking the feeling of being constantly surveilled. In the moments where Truman questions his reality, the cinematographer briefly shifts to naturalistic shots as he becomes more and more suspicious. Nope's cinematographer does the opposite of showing too much. Instead, we don't see enough until it's almost too late. Peele asked Hoytema specifically for spectacle, wanting to explore space and vastness, going as far as to shoot in IMAX. In these expansive shots, the UFO can just barely be spotted by both us, the Haywoods, and security cameras. Though we and the camera try to catch it, the UFO evades like an ambush predator. This builds both fear and anticipation and makes the first time we see the alien in all of its glory all that more impactful. To understand the critique of the entertainment industry in both films, we must first consider the cultural context of their productions. The late 1990s were marked by a rise in reality television, with what is considered one of the first reality shows to ever air, MTV's The Real World, premiering just 6 years prior in 1992. However, the genre was still in its infancy. Big Brother, the show that really made the reality TV genre skyrocket, was still in its planning stages at the same time The Truman Show released. The film was intended to be a satire that pushed ideas to the extreme, but it can now be read as a prophetic critique of Hollywood and society's obsession with consuming spectacle, regardless of its moral implications. On the other hand, Jordan Peele's Nope is far more recent and was written and produced with knowledge of how internet and virality affect society, how it exploits people, and how it can be exploited. Peele has stated that Nope was largely inspired by the bleakness of 2020 and the rise of the digital social media space during the pandemic. Despite this critical observation, he admits that he wanted to make a spectacle, the great American UFO story. Adding onto the layers of directorial meta, Peele somewhat parallels Christof, an auteur, and the Haywood Trio, wanting to capture the thrill of a UFO for money, feeding into that obsession. Because both of these films are about film and TV, they both heavily feature intertextuality, coined by philosopher Julia Kristeva in 1966, aka pastiche, a characteristic of postmodernism where one media product refers to another earlier product. The Truman Show's Sea Haven, along with its residents, is a pastiche of 1950s white suburban towns, seen in other sitcoms like The Brady Bunch and The Andy Griffith Show. However, both of these films' biggest form of pastiche is their genre, or lack thereof. The Truman Show sits between drama and comedy, and at the time was considered sci-fi, though nowadays a 24/7 streamed live TV show doesn't feel so far-fetched. Nope constantly places itself within several cinematic lineages, such as thriller, horror, buddy comedy, and both Western cowboy and alien film genre tropes, Peele having taken inspiration from films like King Kong, Jaws, and Heaven's Gate. By combining elements, neither film fits in one category, therefore defying traditional narrative structure, a core value of postmodernism. Both films feature ambiguous endings. When Truman takes his final bow and exits the set for the first time in his life, it's the last time the viewer gets to see him. Truman frees himself from our voyeuristic gaze, a seemingly happy ending. Nope ends with M having successfully taken photo proof of the creature, and OJ is alive. But we see the media people rushing into the ruins, ready to take advantage, hungry for information to sell. And who knows how Truman is able to exist outside in the real world. For his character, it's likely that media exploitation will continue to plague the rest of his life. It's the same for the Haywood Trio, who will keep fighting to be acknowledged for their involvement in such a groundbreaking historical moment, much like their ancestors. The main point these films are making is that although the individual characters have changed, the audience for spectacle and tragedy never will. Nope opens with a line from the Bible, which is effectively a thesis statement of Nope, as well as The Truman Show. I will cast abominable filth at you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle. Immoral exploitation for profit will always exist. As Ware says, we're dealing with people who are exploiting a human being for the sake of making money. You know, their morals and ethics are all shot through and their sense of reality is gone. But no one thinks they're bad people. The fictional audience watches and doesn't complain. Most of them, at least. The producer's not crazy, he's simply somewhere else. Both works exemplify postmodern film theory by self-referencing in order to highlight not only the film industry's tendency to profit off of tragedy and real human lives, but the audience's attitude as well. One could even say that these films don't kill the author, but revive them, as the production's conscious involvement in the practices the filmmakers criticize is blatant. It also doesn't shy away from criticizing you, as the viewer, enjoying the spectacle either. Through metafictional storytelling, hyperreality, intertextuality, and genre blending, The Truman Show and Nope use postmodern strategies to hold an unsettling funhouse mirror to very real issues within not only the mainstream entertainment industry, but society at large.
What else is on? Yeah, let's do what else. Where's the TV guy?